Welcome to Marriage IQ, the podcast for the intelligent spouse.
I'm Dr. Heidi Hastings.
And I'm Dr. Scott Hastings.
We are two doctors, two researchers, two spouses, two lovers, and two incredibly different human beings coming together for one purpose: to transform the stinky parts of your marriage into scintillating ones, using intelligence mixed with a little fun.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We're so glad to have you with us again this week. We hope you've had a great week. Now, we just want to take a moment here to say, is it okay, Heidi, to say that we love our audience?
Well, we've had that discussion, and some might find it a little corny.
I don't know. Is that too deep?
But I think to just throw more love out in the world and let people know that they're supported.
I just want to take this opportunity to tell each of you listening and watching us that we love you from the Hastings. And we hope that you feel that from us.
Yeah, we're working on spreading love.
We come back week after week. We love doing this. We love sharing these things. And we also love sharing stories of other people who've touched our lives and who are instrumental in really making marriage scintillate again.
Yeah. And while we're speaking of that, if any of you, our listeners out there, know of friends or family or other associates who have really interesting marriage stories, we'd love to put those on every once in a while. We've got a great one today, but we invite you to reach out to us at hello@marriageiq.com and share those connections with us so we can just keep really interesting stories going.
And don't forget to tell your friends, family, strangers, coworkers about the fascinating new podcast called Marriage IQ so they can listen as well. We have some great people today.
You're great at that.
I'm great. How did you want to introduce our guests today?
I'm really excited about a young couple that we have on with us today. They're friends of ours and have a very interesting story to tell. So Ben and Malissa McKay have been married for 6 years and they have 3 little kiddos. Ben is a real estate attorney down in the Dallas area. Melissa, who has a master's in public administration, uses that degree to do a lot of work within the community. And most recently, Melissa was crowned Mrs. Texas American. We're super proud of her and of them, and we're going to talk to them about their journey through that today. So
Ben and
welcome.
Thank
Ben
you.
and Missy. Yeah, welcome on.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about how you two met and fast forward up to this whole process of becoming Mrs. Texas.
Because identity is important to us, and Mrs. Texas is a new identity for you, but it doesn't come without building upon other parts of our identity, which is one of our 4 cornerstones.
Yes. All right. So Ben and I actually met 10 years ago. So this has been a relationship 10 years in the making. And I actually competed in my most recent pageant. It was 10 years ago. And so Ben had never seen me compete in a pageant before. All he ever knew was that I had before. And it actually was a huge part of who I am today and who I was then. And it's how I paid for part of college was through scholarships and learning great work ethic and serving in the community. And so I loved all of those parts of pageantry, developing my talents and serving. And so Ben came right after that part of my life had kind of come to a close. And so we met in college, and our first date was actually in Washington, D.C. And we had met in Utah where we went to school. And I was out there for an internship in Washington, D.C., and he came out for a law school visit. And we decided we would meet for our first date in the middle. So I had no money, but I rented a car and drove 2 hours to see him. And he drove up from Southern Virginia and drove 2 hours to see me. And we met in the middle at Outback Steakhouse.
I had a gift card to Outback Steakhouse. That was pretty much the only money we had, was a gift card to Outback Steakhouse.
A gift card to Outback. All right.
That's great. And do you go there often?
We did. For one of our anniversaries, we did go to Outback Steakhouse.
Good old memories, nostalgia.
Yeah.
So between that date and then we just kind of went our separate ways and went through grad school and reconnected at the last year of both of our graduate programs. And within a year, we were married. So it was kind of 4 years from meeting to getting married. And
That's
Wow.
and here
Well,
we are, 10 years later.
dang. So, Ben, you didn't know anything about what it was like to go through this whole pageant process, right? Because when you guys met, right? She had already kind of closed that chapter and
Yeah,
go
when we
ahead.
first met, I mean, we kind of social media stalked each other a little bit, and I remember seeing pictures of her. She had won a local pageant where we were going to school, and I remember seeing pictures of her, and I was like, "Wow, this is really cool." And it was cool meeting her. I feel like one of the things that actually initially attracted me to her was just I felt like she wanted to make a difference in the world, right? And she had something to say. And when we first met, she looked me in the eye, and we talked about families. She was studying family life or human development,
Emphasis
both.
in human development, yes.
Yeah, and there were just a lot of things that initially I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I mean, who doesn't want to marry royalty, right?
That's great. What did you love about Ben?
So the first time I talked with Ben, we both had memorized a similar document talking about the importance of families. And so that was actually what initially I thought he was physically attractive, but then knowing what was in his heart and his desires to have a family, that was so important to me too. And so it was those values for family that brought us together, and my education in family life and desire to be a mother and to raise a family was important to both of us. And so that was what brought us together initially.
So you intentionally wanted to become a mother,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You planned for it, you thought about it, and now
And you were successful in
I mean,
education and other areas.
doesn't that kind of get in the way of career?
That is something that that's my message to women, is that you can be driven and you don't necessarily have to have a career in order to be successful. And so my background is in nonprofit management, family life, and public administration. And so being involved in the community, government. And so my message to women is that you can use your education to be involved in the community and to contribute without receiving a paycheck. Or you can have hobbies that you do get paid for. I mean, there's so many ways for you to contribute to your community and help bring light to the world while also raising a family. And so for me, what that looks like right now is I am prioritizing my family and raising my children. We have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an 8-month-old. And so we're really
Wow.
busy and we have a lot going on. So this is a really unique stage of life for me where this is my focus. And at the same time, Ben is so wonderful to help take on a lot of that so that I can also be involved in the community through pageantry, through being involved in different municipal organizations. And so being able to know what each other's goals are, and especially I think in our situation, taking on some of that family load that I'm primarily responsible for to help me continue to develop my interests and use my talents has been something I'm really grateful to Ben for, that we can do that together. And the only real way that I have been able to do that is because of Ben.
So there's a lot here. There's a
Mhm.
lot. It sounds to me, Missy, that you started out at a young age. I think this. Well, I don't know how unusual this is. It sounds unusual to me. Being very clear, first of all, clarity in your future, clarity of what you want, confidence in wanting to see it happen, and being intentional about seeing that happen. And I guess that's a message for women everywhere that look, if you are very intentional, and that's one of our 4 cornerstones
Mhm.
with your life, you can do a lot, which you've done, right? You're a mom, you're full time of little kids, no less.
Yeah.
It's been a long
Amazing.
time since we've dealt with 8-month and 2-year olds, but and then you're doing all this other stuff.
And that
That-
begs a question for me. Did this come inherently for you, or were there messages that you received through your parents or other influential people in your life that helped you be so focused to know what you wanted?
Well, Ben and I both grew up in families that were larger. So my mom was one of 12. So I have 60 cousins on
Wow.
just one side of the family. And my dad's
That
one
was a
is
big
7.
reunion.
So, yeah, I have many cousins, and so I grew up seeing large families, and I grew up as one of 6 children, and Ben grew up as one of 5. And so we grew up seeing our parents raise many children, and so for us, that seemed very natural. And so not everyone grows up seeing that, and so for us, it just that's what felt normal. And so it didn't seem so abstract for me to grow up and to have a large family or to be primarily in charge of my children. That seemed very natural for me. And that I feel like pairs very well with community service and being involved because I can bring my kids along. And I think it's really important for parents to involve their children in that kind of thing because you're raising public servants and kids who can contribute and see service as a part of daily life. And it's not something we do after everything else. We do it just as a part of what we're doing.
We are raising public servants, my
Yeah, we
love.
are.
I don't think I've ever thought of this before, but that's an interesting thought. And then you also mentioned that you couldn't have done this without Ben's help. And that's where things can kind of get complicated, right? Two different people, two different life experiences coming together. But for you, it sounds like you worked early to support each other, right? During this whole process of this pageant.
Yeah,
that
I'd
you're
love to
going
hear
through.
what those early conversations
Yeah,
were
what
like.
was the timeline of this thing anyway?
So from early on, Ben knew this was a part of my development as a young adult and into who I am today. And he always showed me that that was important to him too. So I have a book for your listeners who are just listening. I'm holding up a book that Ben made me for Christmas. And it has a picture of a crown on the front. And it's all of my photos of different pageants I was involved in. He made this for me for Christmas. And I was just bawling as I looked through this book because Ben had gone to different directors of mine and he had gone through all my social media and he'd contacted different people to just make a book. I don't know how many pages this is.
And you didn't know about any of this.
I did not know about this. This was a Christmas gift. So I opened it up and I was just crying because this just showed me that he saw this as something that was an important part of who I am. And not that we had plans to do another pageant, but just that this is something that was in my heart and very important as a part of my past and my experiences and my identity. And not that I am dependent on that as feeling worthy or of importance, but just that it's the building blocks of who I am today. So I'm just so grateful for Ben from early on seeing that as important in who I am and showing that to me. And so when I started talking about doing another pageant, I felt like, and he can speak to this, but I just felt 100% encouragement. And I had not planned on doing one so soon, but we had a baby that was a year surprise baby. Our 8-month-old was a surprise. And so he came a year earlier than we had planned. And so I just thought, you know what, maybe this is my year to just try the pageant and do the thing and just try. So Ben, what do you feel like? What do you feel like your thoughts were as we started having these conversations?
Well, as a husband, there's really no downside to your wife doing a pageant. She gets dressed up in beautiful dresses, takes great pictures, starts going to the gym a little bit more, getting in good shape, writes down her life goals. I mean, there's really no downside to this. Maybe, the credit card racks up a couple more expenses, but no, I mean, it's been really cool actually. So, as Missy mentioned, she did multiple pageants throughout college, but the last pageant she did, she went all the way to the state level, the final state level for Miss America, and she didn't win. And it was really a really big trial in her life. And that's actually like right before I met her. And so in our first couple of years of marriage, she would talk about just kind of what a trial that was because she had expectations to take this platform to the national level. And she was only able to kind of take it to the local level because of the result of the pageant. And so I could see that it was something, it was almost like there was almost this like unresolved, I don't know, just unresolved desire that she had to kind of further this cause that she was involved in, which is maybe we can talk about it a little bit more later, but is educating young people on the harms of pornography. And so when she started kind of toying with the idea of doing the Mrs. pageant here in Texas, I just thought, well, this is a great opportunity because she felt like, and feel free to correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong. I don't want to put words in Missy's mouth, but it felt like she didn't have closure on that last competition she'd done. And so I feel like we both saw this as this opportunity to overcome any like lingering doubts and fears that she had about pageants, and also an opportunity to take this cause to a higher level and be able to serve the people of Texas.
So awesome. So I would never do a pageant. In
They're not
fact,
for everyone. That's okay.
they're, they're not, but I think your message can be translated into almost anything. What advice, Ben, would you give husbands about really learning to help their wives shine in whatever their thing is that they're really good at or passionate about? Because maybe women often are so wrapped up in the things of life, whether it's work or motherhood or wifehood or
Well,
whatever it is,
other
that
people.
really other people, that they're not even recognizing where they shine.
Hmm.
What advice would you give husbands? Because it sounds like you
So
were hitting it right on
maybe
there.
while he's thinking, I'll give him a minute. But I noticed this. I want to go back to another one of our 4 cornerstones, which is identity. In fact, that's our first cornerstone of a scintillating marriage. And the one thing is, so Missy knew this is who she was, wanted to be. This is part of her identity. And Ben was sensitive enough to pick up on that and make that now important to him. You see, instead of something, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is what I'm sensing, that you sense that this was really important. So you now made it important to you, not just something you did because your wife wanted you to, because now you wanted to. And that makes all the difference. I can do something for my wife because she wants to and nag about it, or I can do it because I want to do it. And that changes everything.
That's
What do you think?
That's beautifully put. You're probably giving me a lot more credit than I deserve. We were talking this morning about how I do feel like from the very beginning of our marriage, and I don't even know if it's something we consciously did. It's probably just because Missy's such a good person, but it seems like like you said, Scott, our dreams have, it's not like Missy has her dreams and I have my dreams. It's, the scriptures say become one flesh, right? And so, I've always had this dream of building this real estate empire. And so for the first couple years of marriage, we were buying duplexes and fixing them up. And it wasn't like Missy was saying, Ben, you go do your thing. I don't want to hear about it. I'm just going to, go on a girls' trip or take care of the kids or whatever. She was in the duplex. I mean, she probably did honestly more work than I did on the duplex because I was still working a full-time job. And so she would put the kids down for a nap and run over and paint walls and muck out old bathrooms and things. And so I just felt so blessed that she was participating in kind of the dreams that I've always had and making it her dream. And so I've tried to do the same with her. I guess, like you said, Scott, to come together and to support her and to be a part of the pageant experience. And especially as Mrs. Texas, I mean, you actually have to be married to compete in the pageant, right?
It takes both of us.
You've got to have a spouse, and so I try to send out emails and get speaking opportunities for her and brainstorm ideas of how we can further this platform for her, and she does the same for all of the things that I've been interested in. And so we're just lucky, but we're still learning.
And I would say too that it's not without consideration. We don't just go in saying, I want this and you support me, and I want this and you support me. It's, how will this affect our family? So if we're going to acquire another property, how is this going to affect our family? What kind of time will that take away from our family this summer? Because last summer we did acquire property and it took a lot of time away from our family last summer. And we realized that was a learning experience. We call it our fix and flop. It actually didn't go very well, but the important part of that was that that we had decided together that we were okay if this was a flop and that we would go into it knowing that. And so when it did flop, there was no one to blame. It was just us. We had already decided that together. And so going into the pageant, we had decided together, is this going to be something that's positive for our family? And so we had to have that discussion, or at least a series of discussions about that and thinking through that. And I would say, so I applied for the local title, which was Mrs. Prosper. And so I received that title. And between that, it was last September 2024, and then the pageant was May 2025. So in September 2024, I was 7 months pregnant and I had braces. And so I felt like I needed a lot of emotional support from my husband because I felt I did not feel ready to compete for a pageant, if you can imagine. And so something that I'm really grateful for Ben for is that along the way, he was so emotionally supportive of me because there were many tears. And there were times when he would help me become grounded again and say, it's really not that important. It really isn't. It's okay. And if this is actually going to be a net negative for our family, this isn't actually something that we want. And so if you're so overwhelmed, we really don't have to do this. So just kind of taking the temperature along the way and trying to figure out, is this benefiting our family or is this not? And same with the real estate on his end. Is this benefiting our family or is it not? And how can we learn from this experience and do better in the future? And so I just really appreciate Ben and his perspective along the way in helping us and us coming together in understanding what's best for our family, and not because now we're a married couple, it can't just be what's best for me or what's best for you. It has to be not even us for a couple, we have to consider our children. And so there's a lot of people to take into account when we're making our decisions. And so I just wanted to make sure I point that out because that's been a big part of the decisions that we've made as our entire family.
I love two things about that. First is your guiding force is this good for the family? What a great question. Is this good for the marriage? Which is, part of the family. But also I love that you're realistic when making these decisions together about what if this doesn't work? What if this fails? Do we still want to try? Because I think sometimes we go into things thinking, just seeing the bright future. And then when it doesn't, you're right. There are a lot of hard feelings or hurt or perhaps anger at each other or whatever it is. And so having those conversations ahead of time protects your relationship. In that case.
That sounds a whole lot like insight. Were you guys just born with emotional intelligence here? I'm getting.
We're just telling you the good stuff.
I'm a little jealous. It's taken me decades to get to this point, and here you are, these upstarts who appear to be born with emotional intelligence. 3 of our 4 cornerstones right there.
But to your point, Missy, even if you are emotionally intelligent, there are times that you're not, right? We have times that we're hungry, tired.
That's a good point.
Stressed, whatever it is. And even though we know what to do, our emotions overtake, the stress overtakes us, and we're not on our best behavior all the time. So
yeah, I would say Ben has been very patient through the process of this pageant because there are lots of highs and there are lots of lows with me figuring all of this out with children. And something that I appreciate that he did was that it's, I think, sometimes hard, or at least for myself, and I think for other wives, is that it's hard to know what you need. And so I needed help with my home and my kids because I was taking on a lot more outside of our home. And so Ben has a full-time job. There's only so much that he can take on during the day. And so he did some groundwork to help find someone to come in the afternoons to help me with the kids so that I could have some free time to get things done. That was something that Ben really helped me do. And I couldn't see through that I really did need some help. And that's something that he could help me do. When I'm taking care of everything else, he was helping to take care of me by finding some more help. Where he couldn't come in and do the lifting, he found someone to do that. And so that was something I was really grateful for.
That's a good point here. I think it's important to stop and just pause. When you're in the thick of it, when you're maybe in this limbic storm of reactivity, and everyone goes through this, sometimes we don't know what we need.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen this over and over. What do you need? How can I help you? I don't know. And so if you don't know, people can't help you, right? And it just perpetuates this problem, especially in marriage. And what you did is, whether you yourself were able to calm yourself down and intentionally think about what you needed and had the language to ask for it, you also probably had a husband to help you kind of pull it out of you a little bit easier, because sometimes we just can't get it out of ourselves without another objective observer, another perspective, our spouse, that may be able to help pull out the things that we do need.
Maybe giving a menu of
Yeah,
options.
a menu of options. That's a great point. And so the person who is in that turmoil can start maybe pulling out of it by looking at some of these suggestions that their spouse says. And then they learn that language to say, okay, I need this. Boom. Now we can start moving.
This is a great point too, to bring up our episode 65 on 3 communication tools. We have a communication tool in there called Fanos, where every night or every day, whenever you decide, you talk about feelings, appreciation for each other, what you need, owning what you did wrong that day or something you could have done better, and then what your successes are. And just
Thanos.
being able to practice on a daily basis, identify what it is you need, makes a big difference. So yeah, I love that you were able to do that for her.
So in
Ben.
real time, they did this sort of, and he was able to help her out, and they're able to pull through together on this. It was very inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love that. We'll have to go back and listen to that episode you mentioned, Heidi, because, as Scott mentioned, we're not veterans. We're just kind of getting going. And so I feel like we're just kind of starting to understand patterns in one another, and then how to step in and help when we start to, like Missy said the other day, she's like, Ben is always humming and singing. And so I know whenever he's not humming or singing, something's wrong. Like if he's not humming or singing in the shower, right?
Or if he is, I know things are right. Ben's a happy guy. So he expresses that through music. And so if Ben is making noises of some kind or another, I know he's happy.
That's insight, right?
Yes, and that's a pattern.
That's
and
good.
So if Ben is kind of quiet, should I be worried, or should I be thinking through, what does Ben need right now? So
That's good.
And for Missy, right, like I feel like, this event where we brought in just some help for a couple hours a day, I feel like it's just something that we're just starting to recognize in one another. Okay, Missy's, I can tell that she's a little more stressed than usual. And we're just starting to kind of recognize those patterns, and then we're getting better at stepping in and helping fill in those needs when the other doesn't know what they need. But we're still learning. What's this saying? Like, you have to get a PhD in your spouse eventually, and we're probably at like the master or maybe undergrad level.
We're undergrads.
We're undergrads, probably. Yeah, actually, that's maybe high school, and then we're working our way.
Missy, having studied human development, knows well, which that's my background as well, that this is a process, and it goes a step at a time. And as we have all these experiences, we learn and we grow, and our eyes are opened if we're willing to see new perspectives. And this is normal. And it's not normal to have a perfect marriage. What's normal is the growth. And I love that.
It's lifelong too, right?
We don't know everything.
As soon as you think you've gotten there, that's the first sign, the first clue that
you're probably on step one.
You're not anywhere where you think you need to be. When we think we've made it, that's a clear-cut sign that we haven't made it, because it's lifelong. I'm reminded of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Covey. And I think the last habit is sharpening the saw. Well, that saw always can be sharper.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever we're doing, whatever you're doing, whatever you learn, whatever patterns you're learning in your life, education you're receiving, you're putting it all together and you're continuing forward in a lifetime, right?
Hey, everybody. That's the end of part 1 of this awesome interview with the McKays. We hope that you'll come back on Friday and join us with part 2 of their interview
And we hope you have a great week. We'll see you on Friday for another exciting episode of
Marriage IQ.